Night was falling as we started back, and I refused to give my hand to any of the three young women. I followed them at a short distance, my heart torn between pleasure and resentment. In my shut fist, I was carrying a glowworm which I had picked up by the roadside, and from time to time I gently half opened my hand to watch it glow. I kept my hand so carefully contracted that it dripped with perspiration, and I would shift the glowworm from one hand to the other to keep it from getting drenched. Several times in the course of these operations it fell out of my grasp, and I had to look for it in the white dust over which the faint moonlight cast a bluish tinge. And once as I stooped, a drop of sweat fell from my hand, making a hole in the dust. The sight of this hole made me shiver. I felt myself tingling with goose flesh. I picked up my glowworm and, seized with a sudden fright, ran toward the three young women who had left me far behind. They were waiting for me, and the one with the veil vainly held out her hand to me. I wouldn't take it. I walked very close to her, but without giving her my hand. When we had almost reached the house, my 20-year-old cousin came out to meet us. He was carrying a small rifle slung across his shoulder, and his other hand held up some object for us to see. Upon coming nearer, we saw that it was a small bat that he held dangling by the ears and that he had just shot in the wing. When we got home, he put it in a little tin pail and made me a present of it when he saw that I was dying to have it. I ran back to the wash house, which was my favorite spot. There I had a glass under which I kept some ladybugs with green metallic gleams on a bed of mint leaves. I put my glowworm inside the glass, which I placed inside the pail, where the bat remained almost motionless. I spent an hour there before dinner, deep in reverie. I remember that I spoke aloud to my bat, which I suddenly adored more than anything in the world, and which I kissed again and again on the hairy top of its head. The next morning, a frightful spectacle awaited me. When I reached the back of the wash house, I found the glass overturned, the ladybugs gone, and the bat, though still half alive, bristling with frenzied ants, its tortured little face exposing tiny teeth like an old woman's. Just then I caught sight of the young woman with the veil passing within 10 feet of me. She paused to open the garden gate. Without a moment's reflection, I found myself picking up a rock and throwing it at her with all my might, possessed by a mortal hate, as though she were the cause of my bat's condition. The stone missed its mark, but the sound of it made the young woman turn around, and she gave me a look full of maternal curiosity. I stood trembling, overcome by an indescribable emotion in which shame quickly got the upper hand. Suddenly I committed an incomprehensible act that drew a shrill cry of horror from the young woman. With a lightning movement, I picked up the bat, crawling with ants, and lifted it to my mouth, moved by an insurmountable feeling of pity. But instead of kissing it, as I thought I was going to, I gave it such a vigorous bite with my jaws that it seemed to me I almost split it in two. Shuddering with repugnance, I flung the bat into the wash house and fled. The opalescent water in the wash house was bestrewn with black overripe figs that had fallen from a large fig tree shading it. When I went back to within a few feet of there, my eyes filled with tears. I could no longer distinguish the bat's dark little body, which was lost among the other black specks of the floating figs. Never again did I have a desire even to go near the wash house, and still today, each time some black spots recall the spatial and special arrangement, which remains quite clear in my memory, of the figs in the tub where my bat was drowned, I feel a cold shudder run down my back.